It was a chilly Monday morning in upstate New York, and the lobby of First United Federal Bank was already filling with customers. People in sleek coats and designer scarves stood in quiet lines, tapping away on their phones, sipping coffee from paper cups. The marble floor echoed with the sound of polished shoes and hushed conversations. An elderly woman slowly stepped through the glass doors. Her gray hair was tucked under a faded woolen cap, and she wore a bulky thrift store coat that had clearly seen better days. She clutched a worn leather purse tightly under her arm and walked with a slight tremble in her step. As she approached the front desk, the security guard, a sharp-tongued woman named Crystal James, sized her up with a smirk. Crystal had been on the job for 5 years, and she considered herself a good judge of people. And to her, this lady screamed, "Homeless trouble." The old woman offered a warm, almost shy smile. "Good morning, dear. I need to withdraw some money. Here's my check." Crystal didn't even glance at it. "This ain't a soup kitchen, lady," she said coldly. "You got no business here. This place isn't for people like you." The woman's face fell slightly, but she still held her composure. "I understand, but I do have an account here. Please look at the check. It's for $50,000. That made Crystal laugh out loud. "You must be out of your damn mind. 50,000? Have you ever even seen that kind of money? What is this, a joke?" Before the woman could respond, the branch manager, Vincent Blake, poked his head out of his office. "What the hell is going on out here?" he barked. Crystal turned to him and pointed at the woman. "She says she's got a check for 50 grand, but she looks like she slept in a bus station." Without hesitation, Vincent stormed out of his office, crossed the floor, and without a word, slapped the elderly woman so hard she stumbled backward and fell. Her purse spilled open on the floor. "Get this crazy woman out of here before she makes a scene," he snapped. Crystal dragged her toward the door, tossing her purse at her feet. No one in the lobby said a word. No one helped her up. No one knew that this fragile, insulted woman was the mother of Madison Brooks, the county administrator of Dutchess County, and one of the most powerful public officials in the state. And every cruel word and violent act, had just been captured on the bank's security cameras. That night, the woman sat at her modest kitchen table and called her daughter. Madison answered on the first ring. The moment her mother began to speak, Madison's expression turned to stone. "Mom, I'll be there first thing in the morning," she said. "And we're going to that bank together." The next morning, the air was brisk as Madison Brooks stepped out of her modest sedan in front of First United Federal Bank. She wore no makeup, no expensive jewelry, just a simple cotton blouse, a long navy skirt, and a cardigan. Her mother stood beside her in the same old coat, holding her daughter's arm gently. Madison had insisted they dress plainly. "Let them see us exactly the way they saw you yesterday," she told her mother that morning. They arrived at 9:55 a.m., 5 minutes before opening. The bank's iron gate was still closed. Madison and her mother stood quietly near the entrance while bank employees trickled in, most barely noticing the two women. At 10 a.m. sharp, the bank opened. The pair stepped inside. A few customers were already at the counters, dressed in tailored suits and high heels. As Madison and her mother entered, all heads turned. Whispers floated around them. "Who are they? They look like they're here for welfare checks. Maybe they're lost." None of it fazed Madison. She offered her mother a comforting smile and walked with calm purpose toward the counter. There, behind the bulletproof glass, was the same security guard, Crystal James. She didn't recognize Madison, nor did she try. Her eyes went directly to the old woman beside her, and her tone turned sharp. "You again? You're back? Who let you in?" Madison calmly stepped forward and said, "Ma'am, we'd like to make a withdrawal. My mother needs her medication, and we have other errands to run. Here's the check again." Crystal looked them both up and down and scoffed. "This bank doesn't deal with your kind. You're in the wrong place. Try a community center." Madison's face didn't change. She simply placed the envelope on the counter. At least give it to your manager. If we're in the wrong place, we'll leave. Crystal snatched the envelope, rolled her eyes, and muttered, Sure. Take a seat if you want to waste your time. Madison and her mother sat down quietly on a bench near the wall. The murmurs in the bank grew louder. A few employees leaned toward each other, smirking. Someone whispered, Another crazy old lady trying to play rich. Madison heard everything. She kept her expression still, her back straight. But her mother's eyes were moist. She looked at her daughter, pride and pain mixing on her face. Madison, she said softly, we can go. You don't need to do this. Madison took her hand and smiled gently. No, Mom. We're exactly where we need to be. After 10 minutes of silence, Madison rose and approached Crystal once again. If it's too much trouble for you, would you kindly let your manager know I'm requesting a moment of his time? Crystal rolled her eyes again but picked up the desk phone and dialed. Mr. Blake? There's a woman here insisting she meet with you. Should I send her in? Vincent Blake peeked out through the glass of his office, saw the two plainly dressed women on the bench, and scoffed. Tell them I'm busy. They can wait or leave. Crystal relayed the message without emotion. He's busy. Sit back down and wait if you want. Or don't. Madison nodded and walked back to her seat. Her mother's hand trembled in hers. They really don't know who you are, the older woman whispered. They will, Madison replied quietly. But I wanted them to show who they are first. Then she stood, calmly adjusted her cardigan. And this time, without waiting, she began walking directly toward the manager's office. Vincent Blake noticed her approaching from his office window and stood up in alarm. He opened the door just as Madison reached it and stepped in front of her, trying to block the way. Excuse me, ma'am, this area is for staff only, he said curtly. Madison looked him straight in the eye, her voice measured and polite. I believe you're the branch manager, Mr. Blake? He gave her a sideways glance, still seeing nothing more than a stubborn rural woman. That's correct. And I don't have time for. She calmly held out the envelope. This is the check my mother brought yesterday. She needs to withdraw funds for medication and bills. You may want to review it before assuming she doesn't belong here. Vincent didn't take the envelope. He waved her off. Listen, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but I can tell by looking. People like you don't have money like that. You're wasting everyone's time. For a moment, Madison remained silent. Then she laid the envelope gently on the edge of his desk. Her voice dropped low, cool and firm. You've made your assumptions. All I ask is that you read what's inside. I'll be waiting at the front door. She turned around and walked back to her mother, who was still seated quietly, hands folded in her lap. Come on, Mom, she said, taking her hand. We've done what we needed to. They walked to the bank's glass exit. But just before stepping outside, Madison turned back. Her eyes locked with Vincent's across the lobby. In a voice that carried just enough to be heard, she said, The consequences of how you treat people are not always immediate, Mr. Blake. But they always arrive. Read the envelope. Then she opened the door and left with her mother. Silence fell over the lobby again. The customers who had once smirked now sat quietly, uncertain. Vincent, annoyed but curious, returned to his office. He finally picked up the envelope, muttering to himself. Let's see what this nonsense is. He opened it and pulled out the check, an official cashier's check for $50,000, drawn from a trust account with matching documents. Attached to it was a copy of an ID. His hands froze. The ID bore the name Madison A. Brooks, County Administrator of Dutchess County. And in fine print below it, First United Federal Bank, shareholder, 8% ownership. Vincent's throat went dry. He suddenly remembered the face. The local news, the community panels, the charity events, he had seen her before. His hands trembled as he picked up his phone and dialed Crystal. Get in here. Now. Within seconds, Crystal entered, eyes wide. What is it? Vincent stood pale and stunned. He handed her the ID. That woman, She's Madison Brooks, the county administrator. Crystal's jaw dropped. She stared at the photo and then out at the door, where the two women had just exited. The full weight of what they had done began to settle in. And outside, Madison Brooks was already planning her return, with justice in hand. The next morning, First United Federal Bank looked as ordinary as ever from the outside, but inside, a storm was brewing. At exactly 10:15 a.m., the glass doors opened once more. The same elderly woman stepped inside, but this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her walked Madison Brooks, no longer in plain clothes, but dressed in a sharp navy blue business suit with a golden county seal pinned to her lapel. A dark leather briefcase swung from her hand, and behind her was another man in a gray suit, tall, stern, and carrying official-looking documents. Every employee stopped in their tracks. Even the customers, lawyers, executives, retirees, paused mid-conversation. Crystal, the security guard, was the first to recognize them. Her face drained of color. She quickly straightened her jacket, unsure of whether to run or salute. Madison's mother walked gracefully this time, her back straight, her expression calm, but her eyes gleamed with quiet pride. Her daughter was no longer just her child. She was a symbol of power and justice. They didn't stop at the counter. They walked straight toward the manager's office. Vincent Blake saw them coming and jumped from his chair. He tried to regain composure, adjusting his tie and wiping the sweat from his brow. Madison opened the office door without knocking. "Mr. Blake," she said, her tone professional but sharp. "We need a moment." "Miss Brooks, I didn't know." She raised a hand. "Save it." The man beside her stepped forward. "Mr. Blake, I'm Peter Hale, legal counsel for Ms. Brooks. As of today, she's filing a formal misconduct report against this branch under Section 4 of the Federal Fair Banking Practice Act." Vincent's eyes widened in horror. Madison placed the briefcase on his desk and opened it. She pulled out two documents. "The first," she said, "is an immediate transfer order. You are relieved of your managerial duties at this location, effective immediately. You're being reassigned to a field post in Ulster County, where you'll report directly to Public Services." Vincent opened his mouth to protest, but Madison continued. "The second," she said, placing the second sheet in front of him, "is a show cause notice. You're to appear before the Regional Ethics Board within the week to explain your behavior. This includes verbal abuse, physical assault, and class-based discrimination." The manager sank into his chair, sweat trickling down his temple. "Madam Brooks, I didn't know. I thought your mother was a nobody?" Madison interrupted, her tone icy. "Just because she didn't wear a suit or carry a briefcase," he stammered. "It was a mistake. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please." Madison looked him dead in the eye. "This isn't just about my mother. It's about every person you've ever dismissed because of how they looked. This bank serves the people, not your ego." Vincent had no response. He simply slumped back in his chair. Madison turned to the security guard, Crystal, who had been lingering in the hallway, trembling. "You," Madison called. Crystal stepped forward nervously. "Yes, ma'am. You treated my mother like trash. You threatened to throw her out. You mocked her. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Crystal's voice shook. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I didn't mean to. I'll never treat anyone like that again, I swear." Madison studied her, then said, "I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to teach you. Every person matters. Wealth isn't what makes someone worthy of respect. Humanity does." The entire bank had fallen into complete silence. Employees, customers, even the janitor, were listening with rapt attention. Madison looked around and said clearly and firmly, "Dignity doesn't come from your position. It comes from how you treat others. From now on, let this bank be a place of integrity, not arrogance." Then she turned to her mother. "Let's go, Mom." They walked out together, leaving a bank full of stunned silence behind them. For a long time after Madison and her mother walked out, the lobby of First United Federal Bank remained frozen in a hushed stillness. Employees avoided eye contact, and even the customers sat unusually quiet, processing what they had just witnessed. Vincent Blake remained inside his office, head in his hands, the official documents still spread out before him. His career, once smooth and unchallenged, was now unraveling because of a single act of arrogance. Crystal James quietly returned to her security post but didn't dare meet anyone's gaze. Her usual swagger had evaporated, replaced by a quiet, humbling weight. Later that afternoon, a corporate representative from the bank's regional headquarters arrived. A formal meeting was held in the back conference room. HR officers conducted interviews, reviewed security footage, and began compliance procedures. Employees who had once ignored inappropriate behavior now found themselves being asked hard questions. That evening, local news broke the story. County administrator humiliated at local bank while withdrawing funds for her ailing mother. Headlines ran across TV screens and news apps. The accompanying security footage, grainy, silent, but devastating, showed the slap, the pushing, the indifference. The community's response was immediate and fierce. People began flooding the bank's customer service lines. Longtime clients closed their accounts in protest. Social media was ablaze with outrage. Advocates for the elderly, civil rights organizations, and elected officials demanded reform, not just in that one branch, but across the banking system. By the next day, the branch was operating under temporary management, with a new interim manager flown in from Albany. A large poster was placed at the entrance. "Every customer matters. Discrimination has no place here." Inside the staff room, new training manuals were handed out. Titles read, "Bias Awareness and Customer Dignity." Mandatory workshops were scheduled. Anonymous hotline posters were taped on the bulletin board. But the real transformation began in the hearts of the employees. For the first time, tellers looked up and smiled genuinely at customers. Security staff greeted visitors with politeness. Bankers offered assistance to elderly clients before being asked. People had seen what a failure of respect could cost, and they didn't want to be next. Crystal James took it the hardest. She personally asked to attend every training session twice. On her lunch break, she began volunteering at a nearby senior center, helping elderly folks understand their banking needs. And every day, she waited, half hopeful, half afraid, that Madison Brooks might return. But Madison didn't come back. She didn't need to. The message had already landed. A seed of change had been planted in a place where judgment once ruled. And in its place, humility had begun to bloom. 2 weeks later, on a calm Thursday morning, the atmosphere at First United Federal Bank was completely different. The marble floor still gleamed, the glass doors still slid open with their usual hiss, but something more subtle had shifted, something deeper. This morning, an elderly man in a worn flannel coat entered, walking slowly with the help of a cane. A young teller noticed and immediately stood up, offering a supportive arm and guiding him to a comfortable chair. "Take your time, sir," she said kindly. "I'll get someone to assist you right away." The other staff followed suit. They no longer looked at clothing or posture to decide how to treat people. They simply served. At noon, the branch doors opened again, and a familiar figure entered. This time, Madison Brooks wore her professional attire but came without any entourage. In her hand, she carried no files, no briefcase, only a simple bouquet of lilies. The staff straightened immediately. The interim manager approached her respectfully. "Ms. Brooks," he said, "thank you for coming. Would you like a seat?" She smiled warmly. "No need. I just came to see someone." She walked quietly toward the security desk. Crystal James stood up instantly, her face pale but steady. "Ms. Brooks, I heard you've been attending training and volunteering," Madison said. "Yes, ma'am," Crystal nodded. "I needed to change. I didn't want your forgiveness, I just didn't want to be that person again." Madison handed her the bouquet. "My mother wanted you to have these. She said not everyone gets a second chance, but the ones who do, should make it count." Crystal's eyes welled up. She took the flowers with trembling hands. Tell her thank you. Truly. Madison gave a soft nod and turned to leave. As she reached the door, every staff member, tellers, managers, even the janitor, stood and watched her go. Not because she was powerful or feared, but because they had learned something far more important, to honor humanity before hierarchy. Outside, Madison's mother sat in the passenger seat of the car, knitting peacefully. Did you go in, sweetheart? She asked as Madison climbed behind the wheel. I did, Madison said. They've changed, Mom. They really have. Her mother smiled, warm and proud. You didn't just make a statement, you made a difference. As they drove away under the quiet blue sky, the bank doors closed behind them, but the impact they left remained wide open. And from that day forward, no one who walked into that bank, whether in a suit or in simplicity, was ever judged again. Dear friends, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and share it as much as possible. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our Zaku Stories channel. We'll see you in the next video. Stay well, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.